And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Wednesday, May 14th. I am Josh Engelman, joined by Greg Ehrenberg, brought to you by Stokastic. We got a ton to talk about today. 2-game slate, Knicks, Celtics, Game 5. I'm excited. Warriors, Wolves, Game 5. I'm not excited. That series could end right now. Good riddance to that one. But the first one should be fun. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. The Boston Celtics, 5-point favorites, 208 total today, Greg. What do you make of it?
I do think there's a human element of this that's really hard to put data to, because the loss of Jason Tatum could completely demoralize this Boston team to the point where the Knicks might get out to a big lead and they might just roll over, right? And like, there's a part of that that's really hard to encapsulate with data. There could also be something where they really rally behind his loss. It brings them together. I do think that it's so hard to know until after the game's over. There'll be a positive. Like, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it's a negative. They don't have Jason Tatum anymore. Yes. But like, there's a scenario where it's even worse than data could really quantify. So I find it really tricky to navigate the game from that standpoint. And then, not to mention also, it would be really helpful if Kristaps Porzingis could play 35 minutes today. We don't even know if that's possible. Maybe it is. He played close to full minutes last game, but a lot of it seems just based on how is he feeling today. So to answer your question, I don't know exactly what to make of it, because I think there are elements that are really hard for us to measure.
Yeah, when you started talking about the human element of it, there was one more that immediately came to my mind that you didn't even go to, which is, technically speaking, the Knicks have nothing to worry about today, and Boston has everything to play for. In those scenarios, you see the team with their back against the wall a little bit more likely to fire every bullet they have in their gun, whereas the Knicks don't necessarily have to crank it to 11 in this scenario. Maybe Tibbs offsets that a little bit if he needs to, but I think that's part of the reason we're seeing this line look like it is. Does that line surprise you? Because we talked about it 30 seconds after Tatum got injured in a DM. That's a lot.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, the Knicks are still really big favorites to win the series. They're minus 110 to win the East last I had looked. So it doesn't seem to impact how books are viewing the Knicks' odds to win the conference or their odds to win this series overall. But this individual game is looked at as one where the Celtics are favored, which, I understand it to a certain degree. It's not something I don't feel comfortable betting on the line. Just I feel like there's all these elements at play that are really hard to put data to.
I mean, I snap bet the Knicks when 4.5 got hung, and now I feel like a moron. For multiple reasons. One, I don't necessarily agree with the line today, no matter everything that I've been saying about Boston. I'd like to think that I approached this mildly realistically here. I'm very surprised to see this. I thought it was going to go the other direction, and I thought I was getting a good line. Turns out that's not true, which really just makes it even worse for this, because it makes me even more confused about what I'm looking at than what I know right now, because that line implies that the Boston Celtics without Jason Tatum are still a better team than the New York Knicks in this moment. And I don't know how to reconcile that.
Yeah, in hindsight, if you look at the Cavs-Pacers game last night, for instance, for obvious reasons, the Cavs were big favorites going into the game. But then as the game plays out, it starts oh my God, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland could barely move. It was so clear that they were not healthy early on in the game here. And it's not, it's not the same situation with the Celtics, obviously. It's just they're dealing with a different injury. And then you've got, the closest one is going to be Kristaps Porzingis to Darius Garland and to Donovan Mitchell last night. Because, by the way, Donovan Mitchell ended up having a fantastic DFS game, despite the fact that he was barely able to move physically. When he had to summon the energy to make a big play. I know he missed those 3 free throws, but otherwise, for whatever, the way that Donovan Mitchell is kind of viewed by the public, people are only going to remember those 3 free throws he missed. Considering the percentage of healthy play, that was an incredibly gritty performance where he did hit a couple of incredible shots down the stretch. But to me, Porzingis is the closest thing we have to Garland and Mitchell, where Porzingis at 5K is clearly wildly underpriced if you're getting a full allotment of minutes out of him. But there's a scenario here where Porzingis just doesn't feel well and he can only play 12 minutes.
That's the trickiest part of all of this. I just don't know what to do with that dude, because that's everything. If they don't have him, like this line will look very silly very quickly, because then you're just seriously running out of bodies. And I don't know what to make out of him. He's looked like shit so far. He certainly doesn't look like himself. So then we just look at this Boston team where Jaylen Brown is miscast as the best possible option on the team. Everybody has to move up a spot into the wrong spots. Mm-hmm. But maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, I desperately want Boston to win today. 1, for more basketball, just so we have like games on Friday and stuff. 2, because I bet on Boston, obviously. But 3, I just want to start feeling that, like that twinge of, oh, it's game 6 now. Can they get this one? Because if you get to game 7 back at home, it's like all bets off. I just want to start feeling that tension, because that's the most fun part of the playoffs. Getting weird with it.
And that's what we could have had with Cleveland last night. If they won that game yesterday, then all of a sudden they would have been, well, maybe they, just because of the health of Garland and Mitchell, maybe they wouldn't have been favorites in game 6. But let's say that the Cavs won last night. Mitchell and Garland both look normal. They're favorites in game 6. And if they're favorites in game 6 and they win that game, all of a sudden they're like 10-point favorites in game 7. So you look at Knicks Celtics here. All right, if the Celtics are 5-point favorites today, they're going to be underdogs in New York without a doubt if they win today. But if they happen to pull off that game as underdogs in game 6, they're back to being favorites in game 7 at home with a chance to, advance in the playoffs. So I know what you mean.
We'd be hanging like, 5.5 Boston Celtics. At that point, who knows? We know it's not like Cat's super healthy. Every day that goes by could pick off a Nick, and that's not going to be helpful at all. I just want to see it all. Let's talk about the Knicks. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a ton to talk about at this point for the New York Knicks. The Boston side will be a little bit more interesting. You're getting, 30-ish% ownership to Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Towns, 20 right now to Anunoby, 10 to Robinson, 5 to McBride. On the FanDuel side, the starters are a bit more owned. The bench guys, a little bit less owned. But there's no weird stuff for the Knicks. This is just the same team going out there playing 36 plus minutes for all their starters if they can, barring foul trouble or injury. Do you like anybody specifically for the Knicks today because there is no Jason Tatum?
Not because there's no Jason Tatum. I don't look at that like across the board. I guess it benefits the Knicks on offense incrementally, not to where somebody who was like a bad play before, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't miss this guy because Tatum's out. It's baked into the projections, the spread for the game, the total, the player props. Maybe it's like 0.2 of a fantasy point more for each individual guy. But unless you could convince me otherwise, there's not one guy I look at and say, oh, I would have hated this guy if Tatum was playing, but I love him because Tatum is out now.
Yeah, I don't, we talked about it a little bit on the strategy show that, like, while it sounds ridiculous to say, if Kristaps Porzingis is like mildly himself, defensively, the starting 5 is just still like really awesome. There are no fun spots to pick at. KP's good. Like, obviously you want the 1 through 5 defender like Jason Tatum that can match up on anybody and it's not going to be a problem. They obviously are a little bit worse, but I think it only starts to matter when you start thinking about how much playing time someone like Peyton Pritchard has to pick up and how they're going to go about attacking him, because that is now what I would imagine the Knicks' main goal. Pritchard has to play more. You finally get somebody out there that is like a less than defender. How do you pick on that dude? Starts to make me like Brunson a bit more in this one, but at the same time, does Boston react to the fact that it did not go very well for Derek White in the last one? Do we see as much of Drew Holiday on Jalen Brunson in this one as we possibly can? That's where the trickle down comes back to. I just always feel like the linchpin of the New York Knicks winning this game is Mikal Bridges, and I rarely get him. It certainly worked out for Mikal Bridges last time out, but to me, he's the wild card for all of this.
Yeah, so there's a pivot I liked a lot on Monday that I like a lot again today. The ownership gap between Jonathan Kuminga and OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, it's too wide, in my opinion. So nothing happened that made me feel differently Monday to Wednesday. So if you just watch the game, it was like, hey, Kuminga played a really good game. He wasn't good or bad for DFS. He was just kind of neutral. But Mikal Bridges was considerably better, and OG Anunoby was like pretty comparable, even though Anunoby had to briefly leave the game with some hamstring cramps. But I look at Jonathan Kuminga, who's fairly popular on the slate, is $5,500. And then you get a player who, relative to a 2-game slate, mid 20% ownership going to Mikal Bridges, 20% ownership going to OG Anunoby. It's not as big of an ownership gap as it was on Monday, but I don't think that there is anything that Jonathan Kuminga has done that warrants him being considerably more popular than OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. And then also, there's still the looming aspect of this is there is always a chance that Kuminga doesn't make his shots, misses some assignments on defense, and then all of a sudden Jonathan Kuminga is playing 18 minutes in this game tonight. And It was the same way I felt on Monday. It didn't end up being the case with Kuminga. He was just fine. Like if you played him, you were happy. If you didn't play him, you were fine with it as well. He scored like 27 fantasy points at $5,300 or whatever that other day. But I think there's really good pivots off of him again today. And Anunoby and Bridges are two of the most notable ones. I do wonder for yourself, do you have any concerns about Anunoby's hamstring?
I think you have to, right? I mean, he was able to gut it out once he came back in. We were watching it at the time. If he would have had to leave again after he just came back, that was going to be it. And he was probably going to be done for the rest of the series. I don't know how real it was. I don't know how it's feeling now. If we see him grab that again, it's going to be a major issue for the New York Knicks. That does give me definitely a little bit of pause, not to mention he is a guy that gets dinged up from time to time. He's obviously working incredibly difficult from a matchup perspective, trying to stop and start defensively way more now than he's doing in the regular season. So yeah, he does give me, I'm a little nervous about Anunoby. Bridges just seems like that guy who's getting slept on a bit. And it's because I just never know what dude he's going to be anymore. Is he the Phoenix Bridges? Is he the early Nets Bridges? Is he the now Bridges? He's too many different Bridges.
Yeah, he was one probably this series has been it's kind of showed some of the downsides of Bridges and the upsides as well. So like for instance, I'm trying to remember the games. Was it game 2 the Knicks won where he had 0 points and was like 0 of 8 shooting going in the fourth quarter, but then he scores 14 points in the fourth quarter, and on back-to-back possessions to finish the game, he gets I think a steal on Derek White and then blocks Jason Tatum's shot, and those are the final 2 possessions. And it's like, this guy might have paid for the trade all for itself in this one game if the Knicks go ahead and end up advancing past this series. So, Mikal Bridges has been all over the place, but at 26% projected ownership, he's somebody I like as a wing for the Knicks.
All righty. Do we have anything else here? Is there any different interest to you for someone like Mitchell Robinson? Is McBride just a guy you play if you don't have Jalen Brunson in certain lineups or something? Because I don't have much to say about these two. I don't see the path where Mitchell Robinson's getting a ton of minutes unless it's directly at the expense of something happening in the Towns.
Let's see. What did I do with... Yeah, I've got like a couple lineups of Mitchell Robinson. If you absolutely needed to punt salary, it's reasonable. Not somebody I want to go out of my way to be rostered or anything like that. I do have a punt center that I like a little bit more than him, though. And McBride is another one for me. Don't really have that much interest in. However, if you are of the opinion that OG Anunoby is going to potentially be limited, then the Knicks only have so many guys that Tibbs likes playing off the bench. If you are going to get OG Anunoby limited in some kind of way, that's going to lend itself to McBride playing some extra minutes.
Well, let's get to the main event then, because Boston and Golden State are the only teams we really have to talk about. The Knicks and Minnesota are the exact same teams today. So just replace all the Knicks names that we just said with all the dudes from the Wolves. It's the same stuff. But for Boston, it's not. Because now we have no Jason Tatum, and that completely changes everything that we talk about now. Sam Hauser, available for this one. We haven't had him in games at this point. 60% ownership to Jaylen Brown at 8,200, shooting guard, small forward. Let's just get this one out of the way right now. He's clearly $1,000+ underpriced for what his role is in this spot without Jason Tatum. The position is perfect. The playing time's not going anywhere. He's not going to enjoy the defensive matchup he's about to get. It's not going to be as fun when you're the star of the show and not the other guy. But I at least have to be around the field for him because there's just too much going on here. The price is that is value you just can't dodge.
There also aren't guys to pay up for today.
No. Anthony Edwards is the most expensive guy, and he's in the 9Ks.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got $9,400 Anthony Edwards, $8,900 Brunson, $8,700 Jimmy Butler. So when it comes to somebody like Jaylen Brown, who just I think he's going to be forced to be the guy for the Celtics, because Derek White, could absolutely shoot the lights out, but he's not somebody who creates a ton of his own offense. He does it on occasion, but doesn't do it to the same degree as Jaylen Brown, certainly not the same degree as Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown is the only guy they have who could potentially come close to filling the role of what Jason Tatum does for this team. So I think Jaylen Brown's playing 40-plus minutes today. I think his usage is going to be crazy high. He's also going to have to create offense for other people. I bet his assists over at 4.5. So I think he's going to be super involved in the game, and he might play 46 minutes today as well. Like, that's on the table for Jaylen Brown if need be. So he's somebody who's nearly impossible to get away from. And there's not even that much opportunity cost. Like, who are you paying up for instead? You're not losing out on SGA or Jokic.
No, my only concern is just that I don't think he's cut out to do the job. Mm-hmm. And I try to get to other things in the 8K range, whether that's more of Jimmy Butler, more of Jalen Brunson, who I don't have much of, more of Anthony Edwards, Towns, Randall, who I have a ton of right now. I'm very nervous for Jaylen Brown getting the Anunoby treatment big time. Anunoby's health, obviously, up in the air here. Brown did not look great when he had to have this role previously, but I don't want to buy too much into that. Ultimately, at 8,200, like, he should be 60% owned. I get every bit of it. He's the easiest guy to roster today. The 63% ownership on FanDuel, 8,600, it's all the same. Today, he looks amazing. They win today and we get to game 6 and that price tag's nowhere near 8,200. We're going to have a very different conversation about Jaylen Brown. Today's the no-brainer. But the second most owned guy here is Porzingis. And now we're into question 2 of what the hell do we do with this Boston Celtics team? How do you trust this one? Because he also is not priced correctly. Maybe.
No, and I'm rolling out a lot of Porzingis. Part of this is just intuition and also going a little bit based on history. I have a feeling that Kristaps Porzingis, regardless of how he feels, is just going to try to gut this out to play as many minutes as possible. Here's the reason I feel this way. First, we've seen his minutes go up incrementally over the course of the series, but also we have a little bit of history here when you go back to last year in the championship series where he had his, I'm trying to remember what the injury was, but like his shit wasn't connected properly in his leg and his ankle would just randomly come dislocated. And they told him that if he played, there was potential risk of significant long-term health risks. And what did he do? He said, I want to win a championship. I am risking it. Now, for today, he doesn't have, obviously he doesn't feel great. From what we know, there doesn't seem to be the same long-term health risks to what he dealt with last year. But if he dealt with that injury last year, I'm sure he is not going to be feeling great physically based on what we knew today, based on what we know going into the game today. But I think he is going to be out there for as many minutes as he could possibly handle. And at a 5K price tag where he just played closest to 30 minutes, it is really hard for me to get away from Kristaps Porzingis. I'm just going to hope that he feels better today and is able to play around the 30 minutes and produce around a fantasy point per minute. Because if he does, he's going to break the slate at 5K.
Yeah, that's the real problem here. If Kristaps Porzingis were just healthy right now, he's like 7-something, or at least high 6s. So while I'm nervous about his health and I don't know what we're going to get out of him, like even 24 minutes of Kristaps Porzingis is still interesting to me at power forward center and 5K, because even if he's still a fantasy point per minute guy as like a guy right now and he's getting 24 minutes, it doesn't take a huge deviation of just like, oh, 2 of those shots fell. He might not be able to run anymore, but they did go in. And all of a sudden, that's just sort of enough on a 2-gamer. If his price were a little bit closer to where it should be, I'd be very nervous. Now I don't really see what the downside is. I mean, he's $100 more expensive than Naz Reid and $100 cheaper than Buddy Hield. I would never expect that sort of group. I mean, he's cheaper than Peyton Pritchard today, which is probably the next guy that we need to have a conversation about, because he's probably the guy that gets the biggest bump with Jason Tatum out in terms of going from not really out there to don't really have a choice now.
I really want to see the starting lineup for the Celtics. There's a bunch of different iterations that they could go with. What is your best guess for Boston's starters?
I assume they go Porzingis because you can't fuck around when your back's against the wall. If this were like 2-1 and Tatum got hurt, I think you could see Cornet in this spot. They don't ever seem to want to start Pritchard, and I don't think that would be a great spot because you give Brunson something right out of the gate. My first lean would have been Cornet if it was a different game. Now I think you just get your best guys out there as much as you can. I don't think they could screw around too much.
That's my best guess as well, is you throw Porzingis out there to start and he just plays however much he can.
Yeah. I also think if Hauser had never gotten hurt, it very well could have been him as well. But I don't think they're bringing him back in to start this spot after being out for like 4 games.
Nah, I mean, that would just be feeding him to the wolves. If they do end up starting Hauser over Porzingis, then I'm pretty concerned about what Porzingis minutes upside is today. Because if in a elimination game, they don't feel comfortable with him starting, that would really change how I feel about Porzingis.
They're feeding him to the Knicks. Warriors play the Wolves.
Thank you for the correction. My bad. Thank you for that correction, Dad Josh.
That's not my first one today. We also have 60% ownership going to Jaylen Brown on FanDuel, 55 to Derek White on the FanDuel side, where he's $300 cheaper and picks up the MPE. Drew Holiday is 46% owned on FanDuel. Peyton Pritchard is $4,500 on FanDuel. It's really tough to get away from Boston on the FanDuel side because all of their pricing did not get fixed for Jason Tatum being out. Not that the DraftKings side is all the way there, but it's much better. FanDuel, they left these guys extra cheap.
Yeah, so as far as the other guys go on Boston, starting with the DK side, and then we could talk about FanDuel. I mean, clearly the guys who are the most meaningful talking points, Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. As far as the other guys go, like Derek White at $7,700, I get it. There's no Tatum. Too expensive and too popular for me. I'm about half the field on him. On a 2-game slate, it's hard to like completely write guys off, but I've got 17% of Derek White right now. I'm a little bit underweight to the field on Al Horford. Of all the guys here, the one that I like the most is actually Drew Holiday of the other pieces we haven't touched on, just because at $5,400, he is somebody who is live to play mid to upper 30s minutes. And another thing, too, is one of the reasons his production is down in Boston. Like, sure, he's a little bit aged. He's not the same player he was in the past. But also, they just have so many other guys on the team that he doesn't have to do all that much, all that frequently. I think we could get a little bit of a flashback sort of game from Drew Holiday where people get reminded, oh, yeah, he can be really good when he has to take on a bigger role. I still think he has that capability. We just almost never see him have to take on that role.
I've been calling for it since the beginning of the series because he can take Jalen Brunson. Brunson can't stop him. He just like that is a win matchup for Drew Holiday. But that's like the 6th thing Boston wants to do when everybody's healthy. Now, I think you have to attack Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns as much as you possibly can. They get a little out of their crap normally, especially when Tatum was around. And it didn't matter too. Well, I mean, they weren't going to win the game in the last time out, but I mean, you can't really blame Jason Tatum for his performance for it. I think you are putting Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns in every action, and you do not stop. Anytime you get one of those guys, whoever has the ball has to be attacking. It's their only path. One, you want to get Towns just off the floor, get him into foul trouble, especially here at home. He's, it feels like you get the good Boston whistle. Could feel like you get 2 quick fouls on Towns, and he's bitching pretty immediately. Just keep at it. That's your path. You got to take these guys off the floor. You got to win this game in a different way. Get this one first, then get to the next one. But attack of Brunson and Towns is the way that I see it. And if they do that, I think Drew Holiday is the guy that benefits most.
Yeah, he's my favorite cheap guy from the Celtics outside of Porzingis. Like we're just talking about Pritchard, Holiday, Horford. I like Holiday the most of those other pieces.
Do you want to do the Sam Hauser experiment today?
No, I don't have him in lineup, so no Sam Hauser for me. I do just want to also double back on the FanDuel side of things, where like Pritchard's $4,500, one of the top overall plays on the slate. Holiday also looks really good over there. Derek White at $7,400. He's 56% owned on FanDuel. The shooting guard position is weak enough to where he just kind of shows up in lineups, but just be aware that Derek White is projected for 56% ownership over on FanDuel. Jaylen Brown is $8,600. He's also super popular. Horford's only $4,900. You mentioned it when you talked about the FanDuel side of things. Like the entire team from Boston is in play. It's like FanDuel, nobody told them that Tatum got hurt or something. They never found out. It didn't reach their TV feeds or something. I don't know how it happened, but FanDuel's made zero price adjustments for Tatum being out, and it's impossible to get away from it. It kind of ruins the FanDuel slate, in my opinion.
That's Ari's newest special. I think it was the newest special. Talks about somebody had to be the last person to hear about 9/11. Like it feels like FanDuel's the last people to hear about Jason Tatum tearing his Achilles. I mean, he had surgery faster than FanDuel reacted to it, and we didn't even know he was going to do that quickly.
Yeah, FanDuel adjusts the pricing second week of next season. That'll be my prediction.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add here for Boston? Do you see any weird stuff? Like, if you were playing 150 and you were trying to get extra odd, do you go to Torrey Craig or Xavier Tillman? Or I know people are going to say Shireman, but it's never going to be him.
Like Hauser would be the most sensible one, just because we've seen him step up, but I have a feeling he wouldn't even be playing in this game if it wasn't for them facing elimination and they're just being like, hey, let's have Hauser available in case we need some extra shooting on the court. So I don't really want to be playing him. If I absolutely had to pick one, I'll say Luke Cornett. And by the way, I'm not even playing Luke Cornett, but just in the nature of the question you had asked me, just because there is a scenario here where Kristaps Porzingis doesn't feel well, isn't able to play extended minutes, and all of a sudden it's like we have to go to Luke Cornett. We don't have other options. So if it has to be somebody, it's Cornett. But the real answer for me is nobody.
All righty. Well, hit the like button if you're here. That's pretty easy. That helps us out a ton. We got about 1,700 people in the door right now. So if you can, hit that thumbs up. Helps us out. We're on playback right now. Playback.tv/Stokastic. Greg and I will be there after this show is over, and we'll be watching the first hour of Boston, New York. But right now, Greg is sharing OddsShopper and the Portfolio EV tool. So if you guys are looking for some bets, I can see some baseball bets up there right now. You might see some NBA ones pop up. Head to playback.tv/Stokastic. Sign up for a Portfolio EV trial if you're interested. 7 days. Link in the description. Get expected value. Get mass bet entries, parlay builders, odds boost calculators. This works for sportsbooks, shop around for the best lines, and pick'em sites. Released a bunch of updated data today. Greg, should we talk about that?
Oh yeah, we could talk about everything and anything.
Well, that is very true.
I'm
a big data guy. You guys know this, and the data that you can dig into on OddsShopper, if you want to get into the weeds of like building out your own portfolios and getting yourself set up to really like get the bets you're looking for, you can get lost in this thing. Pick whichever sports books are available to you to build that portfolio. Pick whichever leagues you're looking for. Pick whichever markets you're looking for. We have all of our historical recommendations for you. And it'll show you everything we have across all the sports books, all of the different props, how much you would have returned in those situations. And then you can just save that portfolio. And anytime a bet meets that criteria, you'll get that alert on your phone and you can make that bet almost immediately. I don't know what else you could possibly want. All the data is there for you, including the recommendations for right now. And you can check it all out for 7 days for no cost whatsoever, or 30 days if you want to sign up through an affiliate. If you haven't signed up through one of the partners, they'll give you some sort of deposit bonus. You still won't pay us anything, and you'll get 30 days. It's so damn good, guys.
Tomorrow, I won't even let Josh speak on this because I don't know it's possible for him to speak on it without saying something out of line. WNBA season starts tomorrow. We've got, he turned his microphone off. WNBA season starts tomorrow. We had super profitable data for WNBA and Portfolio EV. My ROI last year for WNBA, it was 12 or 13%. But you don't have to watch the games to know anything to bet. You can just copy, paste the bets from Portfolio EV. Just click on the link, use the mass entry tool, bet it all for you. So I'm pretty excited for the WNBA season to start tomorrow and be placing some of those bets. I've already placed a couple of bets for tomorrow. I couldn't tell you who the people are that I bet on, but placed a couple of bets for the WNBA games tomorrow. So that's something as another angle to get some value out of the tools.
Hope it wasn't an Angel Reese under on rebounds.
I honestly don't know what I bet because I just for WNBA I just use the mass entry tool and just bet some of the stuff that popped up. So don't know what it is I bet on.
That's the only thing I'll say. Let's get to Golden State. 10.5-point dogs against Minnesota, 203 total. Let's start with the trickiest part out of all of it. Are they changing their starting lineup today? Because my guess is yes.
So my guess is yes as well. I kind of have a gut feeling for what it is that they're going to go to here, and it's a real off the wall guess. I just have this gut feeling that they're going to start Looney today. They've been going to bigger lineups as of like they started Trace Jackson Davis the last couple of games. So there's something that Steve Kerr has liked about playing bigs, at least to open the game. Now, this is, by the way, this is a pretty soft guess. It could be any, but they could stick with Trace Jackson Davis. They could throw Kuminga in the starting lineup. But I look at Looney, who has played 18 and 14 minutes the last couple of games. They also were, not that this is like the end all be all, they were +3 with Looney on the court last game. And then also, if you look at the previous game, while Looney did play 18 minutes, he also fouled out. So I wonder what his minutes could have potentially looked like in that game where he played 18 minutes. So I have a feeling that he's somebody who's worth a flyer on today. I'm taking some shots on Looney. Kuminga, by the way, Porzingis confirmed starting. Kuminga could start. Trace Jackson Davis could start. They could do like anything with the starting lineup. It wouldn't surprise me. My best guess is Looney, and it's just based on intuition.
Hunter Johnson says, you don't know what you bet on? Yeah, by the end of the day, I would imagine, Greg, you have absolutely no idea what your portfolio looks like to a large degree.
I'm placing so many bets on a day-to-day basis. When we were at the heart of the NBA season, I had days where I was placing over 400 bets. No, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what all those bets were.
There you go. It's not important to know it because it's not relevant to the moves you're making.
Yeah.
Does Golden State win this one today? I'm joking. Obviously, they're 10-point dogs. There's absolutely no way you're just taking them outright.
Yes. So I don't think Golden State wins today. To me, the more relevant question is, do they keep this game competitive? Which I think they do.
Yeah. It feels like they do as well. I wish I had a guess of who starts. I hope you're right, and we don't get that information for the next at least 24 minutes, because I do have 37% of Kevon Looney at this moment. I would like that to stick around if possible. But I'm also over on Kuminga, over on Peyton. I don't have Trace Jackson Davis. He scares me a little bit because he didn't get the bogans the last time out. He played in the second quarter. Now I don't know what the hell they do with Trace Jackson Davis. Seems like you can't get away from Jimmy Butler again. I'm happy to get to Draymond, although he really scares me because if it's not good, he's definitely going to get thrown out today.
Yeah.
There's no chance Draymond finishes this game if it's not going well for Golden State. No shot. That dude's gone. He's just getting the gate and getting an early shower. The guy that I'm light on is Pods, and I don't really mind that. I just don't like this series for him.
It should also be noted here, the starting lineup for Golden State doesn't matter all that. Like, it matters to an extent, but if Looney starts, he's so cheap at $3,100 where, you know, I've thought this about Quentin Post as well, though, where it's like if somebody's that cheap and they start on a 2-game slate, it's hard to completely ignore them. But the way that Kerr runs his rotations, especially in the playoffs, everybody who's active is going to get a chance to play to some degree, or just about. Like, he's run 13-man rotations in 2 of the games in this series. So he is going to run out everybody. Whoever plays the best. And that's why my preference is to try to limit my exposure to the really popular Golden State guys who aren't like Jimmy Butler. It's why I went underweight to the field on Kuminga the other day. Like, his minutes are not guaranteed. His minutes aren't guaranteed today. He's played well enough to where I think you could reasonably say his minutes are safer than most other guys. Same goes for Buddy Hield. But you can't guarantee I can't guarantee the minutes of Trace Jackson Davis or Looney or anybody else. Just whoever plays the best, you're going to get more opportunity.
Headhunter Racing said, I have 5 lineups on DK, no Butler. Thoughts? I don't have any thought. Like, sure. Probably wouldn't be what I would have, but you could very easily make 5 lineups without Jimmy Butler that are also still good lineups.
Yeah, I know he wasn't terrific on Monday, and I'm sure that's something that's probably deterring some people to some extent. He's still expected to be really popular, not quite as popular as Jaylen Brown at a similar price point. Butler is my most rostered player on the slate, though.
It's Randall for me right now. Butler's second, but we'll get there. So they trimmed that rotation down last time. No Moody.
Mm-hmm.
Is he back? Post playing? Spencer playing? Is Santos playing? Like, are you even bothering thinking about those guys? Did you have to play in the last game to matter to you? Because that's kind of where I'm at.
No, I mean, even so, keep in mind, though, still, they gave how many guys played? I mean, 14 guys ended up touching the court for Golden State. So all bets are off. All bets are off. I mean, I know it was only like the end of the game, but Key played 8 seconds in that game. You got Spencer, Knox, Santos, Quinton Post. I don't see a reason to have to take shots on these guys. It's going to be so low owned that they're probably not going to be a factor, even if they do have a decent game. If I had to pick one guy, Santos played well in garbage time. Maybe he did enough where Steve Kerr wants to dust him off. If you look at garbage time from last game, because keep in mind, these guys brought the Warriors back in the game, not in a way where it actually mattered, but they lost the game by 7. They were down by a ton. So you look at Spencer, Knox, Santos, and Post. That was a garbage time unit for them. They all had plus 14 plus minuses in 4.5 minutes. I don't want to have to consider these guys, and I'm not going to play them. But if I had to pick one, I do wonder if Santos, who played 4 minutes and had like 7 points, a rebound, 2 assists, a steal, and a block in those 4 minutes, if that was enough for him to get a chance. I think he's going to get a chance to play today. Okay. I don't think it's likely to mean anything, though.
Not going to be super relevant from a DFS perspective?
No, not for me. I
agree. Something that is relevant from a DFS perspective is the fact that the PGA is here and you can get 75% off any PGA package with the promo code PGA75. Got a big one coming up this week, locking up tomorrow. I know I'm cheering for Patrick Cantlay thanks to our boy, Ben Razek. You can go watch his breakdown of this event on our YouTube channel after this if you're interested. But yeah, if you're looking to get our DFS package on the golf side, 75% off right now with the PGA 75 promo code. You're not really ever going to find a deal much better than that for us on the golf end. And golf DFS is very fun. I prefer showdown golf to main slate golf, but when you have an event like this, main slate golf also has some pretty tasty prize pools.
Yeah, and we support all the different showdown slates in the Sims as well. So if you guys sign up for, by the way, any of the packages, weekly, monthly, core, max, 75% off with that promo code PGA75. But you could play the main slate. You could play showdowns on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you get action. By the way, massive contest as well. There's the Millie Maker tomorrow. Yeah. So check it out. Promo code PGA75.
You want to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Don't think there's going to be much here, so we'll probably get to questions pretty quickly. These guys don't do anything different. Same 8 guys all the time. Foul trouble will move some guys around. Can't predict that one. 38% ownership to Ant and Randall, 30 to Conley, 25 to DiVincenzo. Call it 15 to 20 on McDaniels, Gobert, Reed, Nickeil Alexander-Walker bringing up the rear. Anthony Edwards at 9,400 is your most expensive player on DraftKings today. Not that difficult to get to him, whether you like him or not. The raw points here are just very easy to obtain.
I haven't played very much of him in this series. I find that every slate he's on, there's somebody I prefer, whether it's for today, Jimmy Butler and Jaylen Brown, or other days, there's just other pay-up options. I mean, part of it too is I've preferred Jimmy Butler over Anthony Edwards in all of the games of this series. Also, Anthony Edwards himself is very clearly not healthy. Like, you talk about players who are struggling a little bit right now. Anthony Edwards he hasn't played over 30 minutes in a single game in the series, has he?
I think he got it once, right?
I don't think so.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, he has played 29 and a half, 28 and a half, 17 and a half, and 22 minutes. Unless I'm looking at this wrong.
You aren't looking at something correctly. He played 33, 44, 34, and 42.
What am I? Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, never mind. Either way, though, the point remains, Anthony Edwards not 100% healthy. And yeah, I was looking at, why did I have Mike Conley? I had Mike Conley's minutes pulled up next to Anthony Edwards. Anyway, Anthony Edwards, I do have some concerns about the ankle. Had to briefly leave a game a couple of games ago and came back, but he hasn't shown the same amount of explosivity. It's kind of impacted his upside a little bit. One thing that I do know for sure, now that I have it pulled up, we haven't seen any ceiling games out of Edwards in this series. 48, 50, 47, 52 fantasy points. To your point, that's nice floor for him on a slate that doesn't have a lot of pay-up options. But in the postseason, we just haven't seen very much of a ceiling out of him. I think his health has been a little bit of a reason for that as well. He's left numerous games with different injuries over the course of the last month or so. So as far as Edwards goes, I'm not going to fault anybody for playing him, but I prefer Jaylen Brown and Jimmy Butler.
I'm a bit over on Ant. He's much more owned on the FanDuel side. I am not concerned with him at all in the same way that you are. I mean, last 4 games, obviously this isn't correlated to DFS, but plus 3.8, plus 1.9, plus 6.3, plus 3.6. Across the board, he has been exceptional against Golden State in these 4 games so far. It's coming about in different ways, and he obviously is taking on a little bit more defensively in these spots. But I don't think he meets any resistance here against Golden State. I have absolutely no issue being over the field. I'm not worried about his health in any way. I assume that's the jinx at this point, but he's not expensive enough to matter. And if that's the case, then I'm happy to get to the guy that we have projected for the most fantasy points in a matchup where I think it's beneficial to him, in a game where his team should win. I think all signs point to Ant. And here's the real thing. It's not stopping me from getting over on Jimmy Butler, and it's not stopping me from having at least 50% of Jaylen Brown. I am losing out on Jalen Brunson. Obviously, somebody has to go away in that, but I'm still getting to those other guys too. So I'm not super worried about Ant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have 18% of him, so it's hard to mention before. Yeah. It's hard to get completely away from anybody on a 2-game slate, but I've got Butler as my most rostered player. I've got Jaylen Brown in 80% of my lineups as well. I've got Jaylen Brown and Jimmy Butler in just about everything.
Let's see here. I'm going to run my stuff. We have about 15 minutes left. I'm imagining we don't get any other changes. It'd be very weird if we did. So whatever I'm running right now will likely be the lineups that I have. What do you want to do with my boy, Julius Randle, the clear star of the Randle Towns DiVincenzo trade? 7,900, power forward, center eligible here, has looked good so far in this series. I think he's very easy to roster. Maybe I don't need the 71% I have right now, but I really liked getting to him 2 days ago, and I'm definitely going to do it again today.
Let's see. What do I have of Randle? Yeah, I'm in line with the field. He's projected for 39% ownership. I have him in 40% of lineups. So clearly he looks really good. He's just popular, and I'm right there holding hands with the field. I have more of him than I have of Ant. So if I have to pick one of the Minnesota guys, Randle is my preference there. But yeah, no like real take relative to the field. He's really popular. I think it's warranted.
Are you well over on anybody here from Minnesota? Do you got a weird one? Are you like Nickeil Alexander-Walkering it today?
Let's see. For Minnesota, I don't have very much of Minnesota. I've got a chunk of Mike Conley. I think that he's a serviceable value option at $3,800, but I mean, he's pulling some ownership. The field's playing him in 29%. No, the only players I have in more than 20% of lineups from Minnesota for me are Randall and Conley.
All right. Whatever I just pasted in is my actual exposures. It brought me down to 61% of Julius Randle. Did get to a little bit more Brunson. Still over on Ant, over on Butler. Little lighter on Jaylen Brown, but still at 50%. So not anything crazy to me. It's the Randle stand that I have. My biggest stand right now is Draymond Green. There's no chance that goes well for me.
I've got, let's see, what do I have of Draymond?
I'm going to be tweeting at him like a Michael Richards tonight, dude, when he gets tossed at the end of the first quarter.
I've got him in a little bit more than half my lineups as well. I mean, it's a reasonable price point on a guy who, as long as the game is competitive, he's going to have to be on the court. Like there's just no way that they get knocked out of this series and they do it without Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green playing as many minutes as they can.
Unless they're not able to because they have been removed by referees.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the way to fairly handicap the odds of somebody kicking somebody in the balls, but I'd say you play this game out 10 times, at least one of them, Draymond Green, just full on soccer kicks Rudy Gobert in the nuts.
Yeah, without question. Can you bet on, are there odds for him to get the gate?
I wish there isn't. I did check earlier.
I bet like janky books have it.
Could be.
Not like
I bet
that can't show up on DraftKings.
No, exchanges probably have it.
Yeah.
Where like anything goes, exchanges probably posted stuff on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not seeing much ownership coming into like Nickeil Alexander-Walker on the FanDuel side. You've got DiVincenzo right around 20, Reed in that 20 range, Gobert in that 20 range, but Ant at 60 on FanDuel is not all that surprising to me, given the fact that you have to have two of every position. He's got a guard forward MPE. There's no SGA, there's no Jokic, there's no Tatum. So Ant on FanDuel, that makes a ton of sense to me. Obviously, I don't have much of an issue getting there on DraftKings, but on the FanDuel side, he's even more appealing.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I do think he's pretty difficult to get away from there. So even though I'm underweight to the field to him on DraftKings, my FanDuel lineups, Edwards is in... Yeah, he's in half my lineups there. He is projected for 60%. The ownership is crazy on FanDuel because the entire slate is just, they just fucked up the pricing. So what ends up happening is you get all this value on Boston. There's infinity value on the slate, but there's nobody to spend up for. So you just easily build lineups that have Edwards, Jaylen Brown, and Jimmy Butler all in them. Like, yeah, you're just going to be, you could even have like Randall, Brunson. There's no salary restrictions on FanDuel today. No, so it's really hard to get away from Ant there.
We got about 9 minutes to go until we get to lock. I've got my lineups in just to let everybody know for these games, because I've said it for just about every show. 49% of our projected ownership is going to the first game, 51 to Golden State and Minnesota. I currently have 59% of the late game.
Okay. We did get, I saw we had at least one Discord question. Were there super chats too?
No, the only super chat we had so far was from Headhunter Racing, which we hit on before. I'm going to hop over to Discord, see what we have. Nickeil Alexander-Walker or Sam Hauser on FanDuel? It's neither.
If it has to be one, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but yeah, neither.
Yeah. Sal's wrong. That makes sense. How much zinger is too much zinger? I don't think there's an answer to that question. Like, I see the path to all of it there for him. He's one of the biggest wild cards of the slate.
Yeah, I'm riding with him. I have 61% of Porzingis.
Like That's one where I'd be happy to play like the personal confidence meter. Like if you're using our sims and you're like, there's no way I'm playing Porzingis, then like go, by all means, just negative boost him out and deal with what comes out. If you're like, no, he's going to play a bunch, but yeah, because of his price, like if you like it, that's the kind of guy I would like to be extreme on because something's there. Him having just like a normal pedestrian 26.5-minute game today would be so weird. He either blows or is awful or is awesome. I don't think there's a middle ground.
I'm playing Porzingis. I'm on the side of him. So Jansen's, yeah, it's really up to your own discretion of how comfortable you do or don't feel. If you scroll up a little bit, there's a couple more questions as well, Josh. Coach DFS asked this one, and then Bando asked this one. I'm pulling up tiers on my phone so that I have it.
Yeah, pull up the tiers. I mean, single entry cash plays is the sorted order of our ownership in our ownership table. If that's coming in from Discord, I don't know what else to say here. Let's see. Ownership: Brown, Butler, Porzingis, Green. I'm just reading the ownership table from top to bottom.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to play Butler, Brown, and Ant comfortably in the same lineup. My preference for cash would be Brown and Butler if I'm just picking two guys to spend up for. And then as far as cheaper options go, Porzingis, Draymond Green, Buddy Hield, Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, I mean, open up the single lineup sim and click complete. Start from there, probably. That's really, truly what the answer is, to a degree. I hate it, but like that's just, there's no context to that.
All right, tiers. Tier 1 for me. Do you have it pulled up as well?
I'll pull it up right now. But I mean, it's probably what, Ant, Brunson, Butler.
Yep, good guess.
Yeah,
good guess.
I mean, that's Ant.
It is Butler for me. Tier 2
Towns, Brown, Randall, White. I got it pulled up now.
Brown for me.
Yeah, it's Brown. Hart, Anunoby, Gobert, Bridges, and McDaniels. I mean, that's not even close.
That one is Hart for me.
Yeah. Draymond, Kuminga, Pajemski, Drew Holiday, or Al Horford.
That is Draymond for me.
It's Draymond based on my exposures. I really do like Drew Holiday today. I'm just going to put that out there.
Kuminga's probably going to be the chalk option in that tier for what it's worth.
Very much so. Porzingis, Reed, Pritchard, DiVincenzo, Hield, and Robinson.
I'll go Porzingis.
Yeah, to me, it's KP or Pritchard. If you got to lean in that personally, that's where I'd be going. And then 6, Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, McBride, Cornette, Trace Jackson Davis, Hauser, Looney, Payton.
That's pretty easily Conley for me.
Yes, thank God. Because if you take Conley out of that, then you really are sifting through some trash.
Yeah, because then it's like Cornette. If you're playing Cornette, don't include Porzingis in the same lineup. I actually think that's kind of like an interesting way to get leverage and correlation, which is kind of hard to get in tiers. But yeah, if you wanted to build a lineup that has Cornette in there and doesn't have Porzingis, like there's a very clear path where I assume Cornette's not going to be popular in this either, where you'd be getting leverage on the field.
Kuminga or Gobert, last man in super chat.
That is
FanDuel.
Kuminga.
I mean, Kuminga is twice as owned, so I don't even think those answers are all that comparable. Also, one man plays center and the other man
I assume it's for Showdown.
Oh, that's a good point, because otherwise that question I would have never been able to figure out on my own.
Yeah, it's still Kuminga for me though.
I have no idea anything about a single game FanDuel question right now.
Yeah, that's
Who
just
wins both games? Who wins the first game? Because I didn't ask you that.
I'm going to say the Knicks.
I just wanted you to say to Boston just so I could like congratulate you for finally being on my side, but it feels like the Knicks to me too, if I'm being honest with you. I want Boston to win so that we have more basketball, even independent of my bets. Like I'd rather the series keep going. But
here's a very non-analytical take, but we've already seen Boston fold multiple times in this series, and now they're facing the most adversity they've ever faced. Like, if they've already folded in games 1 and 2 with 20-plus point leads, like, why would I feel confident that they're going to be able to rally when Jason Tatum is out?
I mean, because they do this shit all the time. They rallied from 3-0 down to blow a game 7.
Yeah.
These guys are perpetually doing this stupid shit. It is so written in the cards that they win today in game 6 and then choke it in game 7 on their own court. That makes way more sense to me. But it just does feel like to me like the Knicks just win this one here. I just don't think Boston has enough with no Tatum and the wild. Like, if Porzingis is healthy, we're having a very different conversation right now. He's just not. I don't even think like Jaylen Brown's not exactly healthy either. So
yeah,
I think they're in trouble.
Brunson isn't healthy on the Knicks side either, which is one of the other reasons too, where I know that you could look at this from the standpoint of this game matters more for Boston than the Knicks. Therefore, they're more likely to extend the minutes of their guys, which, obviously it's true. The Celtics are down 3-1. If they lose today, it's completely over. But when you look at the Knicks and you see all of the injuries that have happened in the postseason to this point, you want the series to be done with. You don't want it to linger. You want it to be done. You want to be rested. You want to move on to the next game. So many of these series have been determined by injuries, or at least been influenced by injuries. Like, you can't confidently say that the Cavs win if Mitchell and Garland are healthy. You can't confidently say the Celtics would have won if Tatum, like, I know maybe Josh would disagree on this point, but the Knicks were winning that game regardless of what happened with Jason Tatum. It was already over at that point. The Knicks were going to be up 3-1 in favor to win the series anyway. But a lot of these series have been really heavily influenced by injuries. You just want to be done with it and move on to the next.
Well, I want to be done with this as well because this show is over. 7 o'clock. Lineups are locked. We are going to Playback, everybody. Playback.tv/Stokastic. Come on in. Join us. Watch the games. We're there right now. Costs you nothing if you just want to listen to us. Subscribe if you want to. You'll watch the games along with us. And you can get a discount code for a single sport package at Stokastic.com. Greg, anything else?
No, just come join us over on Playback. If you do sign up for a Playback subscription, which I know we got a handful of you guys now, don't forget you can get a discount coupon for 50% off any DFS package. So if you do sign up for a Playback sub, it kind of pays for itself by taking advantage of that discount. So just DM me on Twitter. I'll make a coupon for you and shoot it over. Other than that, come join us in Playback.
Bye, everybody. Good luck.